and people expected me to be a certain way, and I wasn't the certain way that they wanted me to be. And there was that constant conflict, and I felt it was this constant explaining myself and trying to make people get me, but they couldn't or they wouldn't. And it's exhausting. And so after a while, I had to go back to my roots, to who my creator says I am. I had to go back to the Bible, because you can argue my culture, you can argue where I'm from.
Love it.
And I went back to God, and I went back to, what does he say I am? He says that I am loved, I'm beloved, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, I'm a conqueror.
Yeah.
He says that I'm the head and not the tail, and no one can debate that with.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chiemeze, and today we are continuing our talk about identity, and I have a special guest, my very, very lovely friend Bolude Watson.
Hi everybody.
Bolude and I have been friends since my second year here, since 2018.
Really? I thought it was earlier than that.
No, so I moved here in 2017.
Oh, okay. So
and then we became friends 2018. I remember, and I tell this story later. I'll tell the story in full voice. Do you remember one of our first encounters?
I do.
My birthday when I came crying to you.
Yeah. Never forget that. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that was the first encounter, and I'm really grateful to you because you didn't make me feel like what I was going through at that time was insignificant and inconsequential. You validated what I was feeling. So to tell you, I turned 30. I turned 36 that year.
Yeah.
And I was crying because it was a Sunday after my birthday, and I'd been just miserable the entire weekend. And you just asked me, how are you doing? And I'm just like, and I told you how it'd been my birthday on Friday, and I'd just been miserable. I'm still single. Nothing seems to be going right in my life. And I remember you sharing your testimony with me that you got married at 35, right? And you validated what I was feeling, and you just encouraged me and you prayed for me. But I didn't tell you something. I walked away from that encounter and I made some decisions. One of the decisions that I made was that I was going to build community around me intentionally. That I wasn't going to be sitting around and waiting for community to come to me. That I was going to find women whom I could do life with. Yeah. And you've been one of those for me since then. So thank you so much. Now I'm feeling teary.
Blind girl. No, I'm glad you did. There's family you're born into, and there's family that you have the honor and the blessing to pick and choose. And you're more than a friend to me. You're a sister. We're doing life together.
Absolutely.
And it's an authentic sistership.
Absolutely. Her kids call me auntie. I don't accept anything less.
Your Auntie Chichi. Is Auntie Chichi coming today? Yeah, no. And I'm glad that I look back at that time because I remember that day very well. And wow, that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, I'm glad we've come this far, and it's a blessing and honor to be your sister.
Thank you. And it's been such a blessing and a gift to be part of your world and be your sister and be an auntie to your kids.
Oh gosh.
Because for me, not having my nephews and nieces here, you've allowed me to adopt your kids as those nephews and nieces. And it's been such a gift. It's been an opportunity to pour out love to kids that are not kin but are kin.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You know.
I get what you're saying.
So thank you for that, Bolude. Sorry.
Why did you do this?
We started this on a cry fest. We need tissue. Yeah.
Because something tells me
Oh my gosh, we can just give it somewhere in the back. Oh my gosh, look at us. We haven't even started.
No.
And I've got mascara on. So
really? Is it waterproof?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
It better be. And I remember, actually, you inspired this series on identity. I'm sure you remember the conversation that we had a couple months ago now. it was after church. You planned to have lunch. You had planned a lunch date with a friend, Victoria.
Okay.
And I remember you telling me after the service that was the first weekend ever since you had your first kid.
Yeah.
She has 3 now.
Yeah.
Since your first kid, that's the first weekend that you're going out any place just by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it sparked this idea of who are you now as a mom and as a wife? And what are all the different things that define you?
Yeah.
And how do you find yourself, Bolude, daughter of God, daughter of mom and dad?
Yeah.
Before you became wife, before you became mother, sister, how do you find yourself, the individual within your marriage? So not outside of her marriage, but within that marriage, within her family and all the spaces that you occupy. You're an actress, phenomenal actress, by the way.
Thanks, sis.
But I'm not saying that because she's here and my friend, but really your acting
Oh my goodness.
is beautiful.
Thanks, sis.
And being able to keep hold of who you are before all these other titles attached to you.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, and off camera, not off camera, we've talked about that a bit, or you've shared your journey of being defined by other people and other cultures and different circumstances, and you fighting for your identity. So can you talk a bit more about that on camera?
Yeah. So I'm Nigerian born. My name's very Yoruba. I'm Nigerian born, and my mom worked in the embassy, so she's a retired diplomat, and so I'm an embassy kid, so different countries every 4 years. And so my accent has evolved. It's gone from British / the UN to now it's what it sounds like, and I like to think it's a blend of African American / Nigerian. So living in America and presenting how I look and sounding how I sound, there was a constant based on whoever I was communicating with. If it was the African American, oh, well, you look like us, but there's something different about you. You sound, and I hate this phrase, you sound white, was what constantly,
Ouch.
We can unpack that some other time, but it's not a compliment. I don't take it as a compliment. So they didn't know how to receive me. And then the Nigerian
And you don't sound Nigerian, like African. African.
Right, okay, yeah, I don't
Right?
sound African, whatever that is. But yeah, or Nigeria, I don't sound Nigerian, right? And then to the Nigerian, to your point, I didn't sound like them. I look like them, but I didn't.
You had their name.
I had their name, yeah. And apparently I didn't say, comma, let's just put a pause here. So I pronounced my name back then, Bolude, very American. But I've worked hard on pronouncing it because, again, journey of identity, pronouncing it the way Yoruba people say it, and they may not be right, but now I pronounce my name Bolude, which is closer to the way Yorubas would pronounce it, right? But anyway, so the Nigerians would go, oh, well, you've got a Nigerian name, a Yoruba name, you don't speak Yoruba, and your thought, the way you process the world and the way you're interacting is not very Nigerian. And so there was that disconnect and that wall. And then the Caucasian were like, oh, well, you've got a Nigerian name or an African name, but you don't sound Nigerian. You sound like one of us, but you don't look like one of us. So every single corner that I would, or group of people that I would hopefully try and, have a relationship with or a connection with, there would be this automatic wall where, not quite one of us or not quite, you know what I mean? And so, and I'd get a lot of questioning and a lot of pushback as to why I identified the way I identified. And so there was this constant struggle and constant explaining of myself and trying to get people to accept me and understand me and accept what I was saying, that this is who I am. And it was exhausting.
I can imagine.
It was very exhausting.
That's almost a day to day.
It was a day. Yeah. And this was when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, USA, which is a very color-coded state, and it's in the South. So if anyone knows America and the state and how the states is organized, depending on what part of the states you're in, you will experience certain things.
Yeah.
Read between the lines. And so so that sent me into this, who am I? And who am I? And am I really Nigerian? Am I really American? Am I really, who am I? And how do I relate with my world and my environment and and the society that I'm in? And so I went down this, it was a downward spiral, I'm not gonna lie. And just a lot of things were happening with school and with everything else. And so I went back to the source. I went to my manufacturer, as I like to put it. I went back to, okay, what does God say? Who does God say I am? Who am I? Who am I? And, you know, my color, I'm not my color. I'm not my skin color. I'm not bound by culture, because people will argue with me based on that. And it's in the Bible. It's who I am is exactly what God says. I'm the child of the Most High. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. I'm the head. I'm not the tail. And all these things have nothing to do with culture, and it has nothing to do with skin color, right?
Not
and
how you look, not how you sound.
Not a darn thing up. None of it has nothing to do with your accent. You know what I mean? And that was liberating. That was my breakthrough.
Amazing.
I will say this, and this might be the segue. I've had to bring that I brought that into my marriage, into my parenting, into me now, because you need a rock solid knowledge of who you are. So when you're married, you have something to go back to.
That's so good.
So when you're parenting, you have something to go back to.
Yeah.
Because that day when I was doing, the splits and jumping for joy that I'm going on a lunch date without my kids, it shouldn't have taken that long, but I was able to, I went back to, who am I? I'm a blessed woman that deserves to have lunch with her friends and can leave her kids in the capable hands of her husband, because we made these kids together. So you can take about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and not babysit, because you're not babysitting. They're your seed.
No,
you can watch your children. Yeah. And it was just this, I went back to not being, because I'm not trying to go back to being single. It's just being free and being able to have a conversation with my sister that has nothing to do with motherhood or nothing to do with my kids and everything to do with everything else. And I don't remember what we talked about, but it was just being able to be with my sister and enjoy lunch.
Yeah.
I do remember what we ate. It was delicious. It was delicious. But I wasn't constantly going, to feed Ariel or to make sure she's not playing with a knife or, and you know what, when I look back, I don't think I even rushed it where I was like, we got to go back. And yeah, granted, Ariel, the youngest, is older. If she was a newborn, that might have been different.
Yeah.
But I've had to have a rock solid core knowledge and foundation of who I am, because that helps me go back to that when everything else, when I'm forgetting who I am, I'm forgetting that I love acting, I'm forgetting that I love being creative, I'm forgetting, or I'm not making time for that because I'm in parenting mode, I'm in wifing mode. Having that foundation and knowledge of who I am, I get to go back to that and remember and pull from that. Because without that, you're not really whole. You're half parenting and you're half, you're not showing up as a whole person in whatever role you're stepping into.
Yeah, and that's so good, because I love how you first talked about discovering your identity as a single woman and then taking that into your marriage. And I think that's a very important thing for both married and single women to keep in mind. And I might sound, some people might disagree with this, but I find that women find it easier to lose their identity. Men have no problem remembering who they are. Single, married,
Yeah.
They always remember, and they always, it's easier for them to hold on to who they are and still be all these other things. But us as women, maybe that's how God wired us, I don't know, but I find, maybe you could speak more to this, but I find that we are always tagging ourselves to something. Oh, I'm single. When I'm married, then I'll be someone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll be someone's wife. I'll be someone's mother. I'll be someone's daughter-in-law. I'll be someone's this. I'll be someone's that. And it just becomes the way that we are formed and the way that we get to look at ourselves and see ourselves, and we lose sight of the fact that before we were all those other things, once when we were kids, we just loved being little girls.
Yeah.
And loved the fun of being who we were.
Yeah.
And our parents would have validated us in some way or the other. Or if you didn't have parents who validated you, someone or some people in your life probably have played that role for you. But then as we grow older and pressures for different stages of life come, we start to define ourselves by those things. For example, I don't have a thriving career, I'm a failure. Right? I'm not married yet. That means I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And we tag ourselves to all these things. I don't have kids yet, so that means I don't have what it takes to be a mother. I'm not mother material, or this or that. And we tag ourselves with all those things. And then when we get into those spaces, because we've always been holding out for that dream that's ahead, when we get into those spaces, everything that we were before kind of just goes under the radar.
Yeah. And
then we fully just inhabit this new identity that just consumes us.
Yeah.
And I want you to, if you could speak about why you thought it was important for you to bring that identity into your marriage, because again, you got married at 35, so you probably fell into those pressures of being a single mid-30s woman, and not cultured for one. I'm sure if your mother wasn't bugging you, I'm sure your aunties somewhere were asking your mother, what is going on with Bolude?
I think thankfully my parents were not. My parents were, I'm laughing because, oh Lord, we're gonna go there, aren't we? Yeah.
Let's do it.
My mom and my dad were not pressuring me, which was a good thing. I was still, education was African family education, but what the wrench was the fact that I fell in love with a white guy. So that just that just threw everything. Everything else went out the window. It was no longer like pressure. When are you gonna get married? It was like, why are you dating? And
what are you doing?
What are you doing with a white guy? And it was my dad. It was my dad.
Dads.
Gotta love dads. Yeah. Gotta love dads.
Why don't you marry a Yoruba boy that will dobale for me?
That I can speak Yoruba with. That's another thing to unpack, because it wasn't at first glance I thought it was a race thing, but it wasn't. It was a fear thing. It was a fear of losing his child, losing his identity, because he's got 3 girls and no boys, and our patriarchal society with the last name being carried on. And my dad's thing was, I'm gonna lose her to a white guy, to a white country, and then my grandkids won't know me. I won't be able to speak my language, and where will I be? I will no longer exist.
Wow.
So it was deeper than it was. It had nothing to do with racism or anything. So I think my dad and my mom. So yeah, I didn't have that. It was a different struggle, but it was important for me to bring that, and I went through my identity thing shortly before I met Craig, and I'd gotten the resolution. God works in mysterious ways. I'm so glad that I'd had that journey before dating and then before marriage, because with all that happened in my life, dating and married, if I didn't have that, I would have been a mess.
Wow.
Because I'd be lost. I'd have nothing to anchor me, nothing to hold me up.
Because in a way, leaving your culture and getting married to a completely different culture, there could also be the sense of, I'm losing another part of my identity.
Yeah.
As a Black woman, as a Yoruba woman.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, that's
deep. I would have been a hot mess, and I would have shown up in dating just lost, and that's not a good recipe. It's not knowing who you are, and then being in a relationship and the pressures of that, and thinking you have to be white because you're the white guy. Or I don't even want to think about the struggles I would have had. So I'm so glad I had that to go back to. So I never had to struggle with who I was I never tried to be a white girl with it. I was just me, and it was no longer even about being Black or white. It was just, I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
I know this segment isn't about what's it called? Winning souls. But if you don't know Jesus, and this is a real, if
Go
you
for
don't,
it.
thank
Yeah.
you. If you
Yeah,
don't
do
know
it.
Jesus, please, just even if it's just a Google search, who is Jesus? What is Christianity? Why am I here? Get a Bible, find a church, a Bible believing church. Knowing Jesus has saved my life. It has saved my life. The reason why I'm not in depression, the reason why I didn't sink into addiction or anything was because I had an anchor.
Wow.
It'll save your life, and I mean that literally. It will save your life, and it'll be the best decision. My name is Bolude Watson. You can find me, and if what I'm saying isn't true after you've tried it, come find me. But I can guarantee you, it will save your life, and it'll be the best decision you've ever made.
So now you're married. There's Craig,
Yeah.
and there's Bolude in the marriage. How are you and your husband united and yet still maintaining your individual identities? How does that work in a marriage? And especially when you have kids in the mix, how do you also teach your kids, especially your girl children, because you have 2 daughters? How are you teaching them who they are, and so that they can carry that throughout all stages of their lives?
I love this question. It's an ongoing thing. I'm not there yet. It's an everyday thing. I will answer the question about my daughters first, because that's something that I'm very, very I don't know. My kids are blessed with a great community, a great family. And when I say family, I don't just mean the mom and dad and their siblings. I mean the aunties, the uncles, the grandparents, that surround them.
I'm one of those
And
aunties.
she's one of them. Auntie Nkirika, shout out to Auntie Nkirika, to Auntie Shell, Auntie Joey, all, Uncle Steady, all the and that's important. And my sister is in Canada. So my middle one, I've got 2 daughters, like Chi said, and I have my first is a boy, and they all have different likes, and not just because they're my kids, but my son is handsome and my daughters are stunning.
Yes, they are.
They're stunning.
Yes, they are.
But we never speak to them based off of whether it's their African heritage or their Caucasian heritage or their beauty or their
That's
we take
amazing.
because I don't want them leading in life with that. Like I've said, that can be challenged. Well, you're Australian, but you don't look. How does an Australian look? You know what I mean? Oh, but you're so beautiful, and like that's all that they are. No, we tell our kids, and it's part of our affirmations. I'm the head, I'm not the tail. I'm meant for greatness. I am a conqueror. I'm the head and I'm not the tail. I'm a champion. I'm a warrior. I'm a conqueror. I'm brilliant. I'm smart. I'm wise. I make godly choices. I make godly decisions.
That's
I find
good.
favor.
Yes.
I'm a godly friend.
Yes.
Things that no one can argue with them about. So that's how
Things that are intrinsic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. We've had that conversation of, oh, your dad's Australian with Irish, English background, and your mom's African American, Nigerian. And these are beautiful cultures, and God made everyone and loves everyone, and because it'll be boring if we're all one color. So He's made us in different colors. And that's basically it. So for a long time, my son identified as peach. I think his dad is peach, and I'm chocolate. But you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
That's literal, though.
That is
That's literal.
I'm like, okay.
So if we're going to identify, let's go literal.
Let's go right. So that's how I want my kids to identify with things that cannot be shaken.
That's
where
beautiful.
it's rock solid.
That's powerful.
Now with Craig and I, it's and I've fallen into this trap where I've just been in mom mode and wife mode, and I neglected the me. You know what I mean? And then I will remember, Buddha, you're worthy of. The Bible says you're the righteousness of God makes you're the righteousness of God, and you're worthy of love, kindness, and respect. So what will make you happy? You want to go see a movie? Honor that. everything links from that, from the word, from what the Bible says I am, right? If I believe that Jesus loved me so much, he died for me, then I deserve good things. And good things make me happy, right? And what will I like to do? Go to a movie with my friend? Or go, So I did a movie recently. You know the movie, like Art, the movie I wrote, the film Carmen and Bolude. My first day on set, I was not present. I wasn't present at all. Because I was just thinking, Ariel, is this the right thing? She was just a year old. We started filming the day after she turned 1. And so she's still breastfed, and God bless my mom and my sister. They flew over from Canada to support. But I showed up on set just feeling guilty and feeling like I was doing something wrong and I was being selfish and greedy. But this is I believe what my calling is acting in film. And for me to be a vessel for the kingdom of God through film. But I wasn't present, and I just kept, I wasn't able to be in the scene. And then the first shoot day where we were about an hour and a half away from home, I was a hot mess. And I eventually broke down, and the moms on set, there were lots of some of the actors and some of the crew were moms. And they asked what was going on, and I just said, I'm being selfish. I feel like I'm being selfish. I feel like I should be home. My 3 kids are home. I've never been away this long from the youngest. And, many of them were Christian, but I believe God spoke to them. A part of me is an actress. That's one element of who I am, right? It's an element of, and I can honor God with that, right? Because he gave me that talent. He gave me all these talents. And so I'm honoring him, and I'm honoring what he's given me by showing up. And I'm teaching my daughters that it's okay to follow your dreams. It's okay to live your life, to live your best life, because women constantly get the messaging that they come last. Yeah. They come after everything and everybody else. And I'm not going to give my daughters that message. And I'm not going to give my son either that message that he should be afraid to follow his passion and to show up. And that's the thing. Show up in your life. Show up in your life.
That's good.
And if you have the rock solid foundation and know who you are in Christ, that is just where I don't know what the word is, but that's where everything shoots out from. That's where everything comes out from.
Wow, that's powerful. Absolutely powerful. And I love that, because I'm very passionate about the girl child. I'm very passionate about that, because us girls from our culture, and I've actually realized it's not just an African culture, it's just a global culture that women are often classed as second place and less important. And women are more likely to give up their dreams for something, say for family, to look after aged parents, or to get married and have kids. And all of these different aspects of life, looking after your parents, being a wife, being a mother, all those aspects are important. And I love what you said about showing up for your life. You got to show up as a daughter, you got to show up as a wife, you got to show up as a mother. You've also got to show up with all the giftings that God has given you. And you can't let any of them fall on the wayside just because you're assuming one aspect of your identity of who you are. One of our friends, I love, there's a podcast that she recorded years ago. She was a guest on the podcast.
Okay.
And I never forgot what she said. She's one of these people that, oh my gosh, she's a wife, she's a mom, she's a professional woman, she has businesses, and I constantly see her showing up 100% for each aspect of her endeavors.
Yep.
And on this podcast, she said something that has never left my mind. She said, when I die and go to heaven, God is going to ask me, what did you do with everything that I gave you? She's going to say, God, I laid it all at the altar. I used every single gift and talents that you gave me. Honestly, that I listened to that, and that's the only thing that I remember she said in that entire podcast. But God has kept reminding me of that and reminding me of that, and saying, you've got to show up for yourself. You've got to show up with every single thing that I've given you. You're not going to sacrifice one for the other. You don't rob Peter to pay Paul. That's not what God is about. God is about showing up 100% with all the gifts and talents and the callings and every opportunity He has given you. The opportunity to be a wife and a mother, the opportunity to be a daughter, the opportunity to be single.
I love
And
that.
know that's hard.
Yeah.
It's not a concept that we understand, that being single is an opportunity. But I'm so grateful that
is.
God has taken me on a journey and gotten me to the place where I've found contentment, but I've also found opportunity in being single. And you've got to show up with everything that God has given you in those different aspects of your life.
Yeah.
Because being a mom to young children is just for a short time.
Yeah.
And if you lose your identity
There you go.
in that, when those kids grow up and they move out, you're going to lose who you are.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep showing up. And it starts from when you're single,
Yep.
and then take that through. And if you're married or you're in a relationship getting ready to be married and you haven't figured out who you are, it's not too late.
No.
Figure it out now and make sure that your identity is anchored on something stronger than that relationship status. Your identity is anchored on something stronger than your culture. If your identity is anchored on Jesus, on God, and His word and who He says that you are. He says you are chosen, you are loved, you are enough, you are wanted. He knows you by name. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. He has already called you all these things. So that was not dependent. He wasn't speaking to single people or married people. He was speaking to His child when He said that. And He's speaking that to you. And I just want to challenge you and encourage you. Figure out who you are in Christ. And I'm going to echo what Bolude said. Knowing God is the best decision that you could ever make, because the world is going to flood so many different things at you and give you so many different ways of defining yourself. If you don't have your identity anchored on something stronger, you're just going to go whichever way the wind is blowing. And you're going to get lost at sea. It's going to be so hard to find your way wherever. That's why people get frustrated with life, because they haven't rooted themselves and their identity in something stronger than themselves, and something stronger than what the world tells us identity should look like. Bolude,
Love that.
this is gold. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank God.
This is absolute gold. And again, let's teach it to our daughters and our nieces and our sisters and our mothers and our grandmothers.
Yeah.
It's never too late to find out who you are. It's never too late. And no matter how old you are, your identity as far as God is concerned stays the same. That's what's most beautiful about it.
Yep.
I hope this has challenged you. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bolude.
Thank you,
and
sis,
thank
for
you.
having
Yeah,
me. This was a blessing for me too.
Oh wow, yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're the best.
All right. Well, remember, you are valued, you are loved, and you're capable of extraordinary things. Until next time, see you. Bye bye.